Hi everyone, welcome to this video on how to get started with Syncfusion Angular In-place Editor. The editor is used for editing a value dynamically within its context and has built-in support for all the form controls, including TextBox, DropDown List, and DatePicker. The editor can be rendered in inline and popup modes. Let me show you the steps to create an Angular project using the Angular CLI tool. In this tutorial, I will edit my code using Visual Studio Code, and I will view the output in a browser. First, I need to install the Angular CLI on my machine using this command, npm install -g at angular/CLI. Since I have already installed Angular CLI in my machine, I am skipping this step. Now, let's proceed to create a new Angular project by typing the command ng new project name. I am going to create a project without the routing option, so let me set note here and choose the CSS option to add a CSS style sheet. The project creation has started, and this will create an Angular project along with its dependencies. Once the project is created, I navigate to the newly created project folder. Next, I need to install the Syncfusion Angular In-place Editor package by using this command, npm install at syncfusion/ej2 Angular In-place Editor --save. This will install the package along with its dependencies. Alright, the Syncfusion Angular In-place Editor package is installed, and now, my application is ready. The first thing I need to do here is add the Syncfusion Angular In-place Editor component. Before that, I need to register the Syncfusion Angular trial license key. Open this main.ts file and import the register license method from the Syncfusion EJ2 base package. Now, register the Angular trial license key using the register license method. From the 2022 Volume 1 release onwards, it is required to register the Syncfusion Angular license key. To see where to generate this trial key, refer to the link in the description below. Next, I navigate to the app module file and import the In-place Editor module from the Syncfusion EJ2 Angular In-place Editor package. Then, I register it within the imports array of the ng module section. I make changes to the app component HTML file by replacing its default content with a table element inside the division element tag. Here, I plan to design the form to modify the basic information of a person, such as their name, date of birth, and gender. So, I have added table element with 3 table rows. To display the form title, I will add a heading tag with the title, modify the details. First, I am going to add the name field to the form, so I set the field title as name. To use the TextBox component, I need to install the Syncfusion Angular Inputs package using the command npm install at syncfusion/ej2 Angular Inputs -save. As I have already installed the Syncfusion Angular Inputs package in my application. So, within this table row tag, I add the Angular In-place Editor component with the type text. Next, to add a placeholder for the text box, navigate to the app component TS file and define a variable called TextBox object of type TextBox model interface. To access this interface, I import it from Syncfusion EJ2 inputs. Here, I will set the placeholder property to enter your name, which will be displayed in the text box as its description. Finally, I will add this object to the model property. Next, I define the CSS for the Angular In-place Editor. I navigate to the style.css file and import the material theme from the installed Syncfusion package. I also added dependency CSS references like buttons, lists, pop-ups, navigations, inputs, and more. Now, I am going to run this example using the ng-serve command. Look here, a text box is displayed, where you can add the text. If I want to show the default input value in the text box, I define a string variable, textBoxValue, and assign an appropriate value to it. Now, I assign this variable to the value property to specify the value for input when it is empty. And here, you can see the defined input value initially. Next, I will show you how to add the DatePicker component to set and modify the date of birth of Andrew. To use the DatePicker component, I need to install the Angular Calendars package using the command npm install at syncfusion/ej2 Angular Calendars --save. As I have already installed the Syncfusion Angular Calendars package in my application, I am skipping this step here. First, within this table row tag, I add the label as date of birth, and then define the In-place Editor component with the type property as date. Then, to add the placeholder text, I go to app component ts file and define a variable called DatePicker object of type DatePicker model interface. To access this interface, let me import it from Syncfusion ej2 Angular Calendars. Here, I set the placeholder property to a selected date, which will be displayed as its description. Also, I define Show Today button to true to display today's date button. Next, to set the default date in the component, add the date value variable of type date and set a custom date. Now, I add this object to the model property of the editor component and assign this variable to the value property. See here, the In-place Editor component shows the DatePicker with the default date. If I want to change the current date, I click the DatePicker icon and choose the date. Next, to show the gender of Andrew, let me display the options using the DropDown List component. To use the DropDown List component, I need to install the Angular Dropdowns package using the command npm install at syncfusion/ej2 Angular Dropdowns --save. As I have already installed the Syncfusion Angular Dropdowns package in my application, I am skipping this step here. First, within this table row tag, I add the label as gender, and then define the In-place Editor component with the type property as a dropdown list. I want to display the gender options in the dropdown list. So, within this app component ts file, I create a string array with two values, male and female. Then, define an object called ListObject of interface type, dropdown list. To access this interface, let me import it from Syncfusion ej2 Angular Dropdowns. Within this object, I bind this array to the data source property and set the placeholder property to select a gender to display description in the dropdown list component. Next, to set the default text, I add a variable called listValue of type string and set it to male. Now, I add this object to the model property of the editor component and assign this variable to the value property. The drop-down list is displayed with the default value, male. You can also change the options in the list. By default, the pop-up mode is rendered when the editor opens. But you can also change the mode to inline by setting the mode property to inline. Now, see the inline displayed when editing the input values. Notice here, by default, the In-place Editor input element is highlighted with a dotted underline to show an interactive UI. To remove the dotted line, I simply set the data underline property to false. And here, you can see that there is no dotted line in the gender field. Let me recap what I have covered in this video. I showed you how to create an Angular app and add the Syncfusion Angular In-place Editor component. I demonstrated how to integrate components like TextBox, DatePicker, and DropDown List, and how to remove a highlighted dotted line in the editor. Finally, you saw how to change the mode of the editor. If you would like to see the working code of this example, you can download it from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also provided a link where you can see if you qualify for a free community license to use all our Angular products. If you found this video useful, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.